Well done, thank you. Good morning and a very warm welcome to Cardiff Business School. It's great to see so many people here so early to talk, to hear from Nigel Roberts about Cardiff Parkway Developments. Those of you who join us regularly will know we do a bit of introduction, housekeeping, and introduce you to the broader work that we do here at the university. So I'll do that before formally welcoming Nigel. Who am I? So for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Melanie Jones. I'm a professor and head of the economics department here at Cardiff Business School, but I'm also here in a capacity. I lead the productivity forum for the Wales Productivity Institute. So some of you might have seen the work that we do around trying to address Wales's productivity challenge. And one of the big things that we talk about a lot is the role of business within that, the role of infrastructure, the role of investment. So really keen to hear from Nigel today. In terms of housekeeping, so we're not expecting a fire alarm, but there are fire exits towards the back and the way probably most of you came in. In terms then, there's also toilets that are situated by the lifts, and I just want to ask you to make sure that your phones are on silent, and I need to do exactly the same thing when I go back and sit down. We don't want any disruptions today. Many of you will be familiar with the kind of breakfast briefing series, so it's really great to welcome people both in person and online this morning, and to see for once a very sunny morning. Actually, in April, we're going to be changing that and trying to do a breakfast afternoon, which is actually going to be led as part of National Productivity Week. So we're going to be hopefully inviting political parties in the run-up to the election to talk about their plans for business and the economy. So all going to plan that will be an afternoon briefing on the 30th of April, and we'll share further details when we have that. Of course, what we do in the business school is not just in terms of directly engaging with our business community through the breakfast briefings and events like this, but we also welcome you to come in and see about our training opportunities and our education opportunities. And a few here are listed. So we have, as you'll see, the topic of the moment, AI, and I'm sure if you're like me, then you feel very behind in terms of what some people are doing in terms of how AI is just changing the way that we work and our productivity at work. And we've got a whole host of both free taster courses and short courses around how to use AI both efficiently but also responsibly, and we'll have experts providing those training sessions. Much more broadly then, if you're an SME leader and you want to take the space to think a bit more formally about growing your business, improving your productivity, then we have a Help to Grow management program. And from the people that I've talked to on that program, they have an amazing experience, not just through that kind of opportunity to refocus on their business and to learn from the experts we have here in the business school, but they have amazing sort of peer networks that last with them as they go out. So again, we've got contacts here. Please do get in touch if you're interested in our courses. You probably all know Linda, but there's Linda in the team here. So you've got her email address. You've got also, I think there's a QR code with us that you can connect. Obviously, more broadly, we run a whole range of programs here, and I can't not mention the fact that we now have a really strong new set of master's programs that are being relaunched. So if you are interested in business management, obviously a plug here for economics. We have an alumni discount, and while I'm thinking about alumni, then I've been asked to introduce Ola. I don't know, is she here? She's right at the back, hiding at the back. But I think that's something that we're really keen for former students to re-engage with us, to use their expertise. So, for example, you might think of opportunities to provide our students with a business placement, a business project. You might want to do a guest lecture for some of our students to think about how you can give back to that community. Again, just keep in contact with us. There are things, obviously, I've only had a chance to show you a couple of things that are going on, but we have a whole range of courses that change all the time. So connect with us, keep updated, and please do contribute to the work here that we do at the business school. So I think that takes me on to the sort of formalities. We're going to have a presentation from Nigel. Then we're going to have time for question and answers, both in the room and on the line. So if you are in the room, obviously we'll do a traditional hand up, but just wait for the microphone so that the online audience can fully participate in the discussion. And similarly, hopefully I'll remember to go to questions in the online audience as well. There will be some recording photographs from today, so if there are any issues, just let the team know. And for the online audience, you can put your questions in the chat. We'll give you the option to read the question out yourself, or we can read that question for you. So I think that is the end of the sort of preamble. I want to introduce Nigel now. So I have got some notes because I don't attempt to remember all the things that you have accomplished. So Nigel's here today as founder and chairman of Cardiff Parkway Developments. And I think most of us will know about the new train station, but I think what we're going to get today is a much bigger sense of that investment. And I certainly didn't know about the kind of business district that's going to be accompanying that. In terms of other activities, Nigel's also founder and chairman of Run for Wales. That to us would be better known for the charity that organises the Cardiff Half Marathon. His role here today in terms of Cardiff Parkway really builds on what is, I think, 20 years at Paramount Business Park. He founded Paramount Office Interiors in 1988 and has developed that since then. In terms of other roles, he has been previously chairman and sponsor at Glamorgan County Cricket Club. He's been chairman of the Cardiff Business Council, president of Cardiff Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure that I could go on, but what we want to do today is hear from you and to hear about the rationale for this, and I think the benefits really that it's going to provide to the Welsh economy, Welsh people. And I think if you think about all those roles that you've done, the one thing connecting it really is Cardiff. So it's that commitment to investment in Cardiff. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. Well, thank you very much, Melanie. That was fantastic. I'm limping up here. I've had a new hip, only to get my golf handicap down, so don't actually feel sorry for me, but I should be okay standing up for a while. But it's great to be here. Cardiff University is very important, and I'll be mentioning them because they've actually carried out a very important role for us in terms of one of our potential anchor tenants, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But bore da, and thanks for all you guys coming today. There's a few friendly faces in the room as I look around, which is always nice. The image that's actually on the screen is actually the train station itself. So I've always been critical of artists' impressions, and I've actually criticised Wales for being the capital of artists' impressions. But this is actually a render of what we are actually going to build. And it's particularly important because we need to have that sense of arrival. We used architects Wilkinson Eyre for this, international architects that design things like Gardens in the Bay over in Singapore. We wanted international architects to create a real stamp. As I said, a sense of arrival. Most of us think of train stations as being, quite sort of, grubby and so almost antisocial, whereas this is going to really make people feel when they arrive that they're arriving somewhere quite special. So in terms of Cardiff Parkway Developments, it's a joint venture between the Roberts family, Investec, and also Welsh Government. the slides that I'm showing you actually are the slides that we showed at the International Investment Summit at the Celtic Manor. So being a bit lazy rather than do new slides, I thought I'd regurgitate these. But I thought I'd start with a little bit of background on Cardiff Parkway and how the project actually came about. I personally was brought up in the area near St Mellons. My uncle had a farm in St Mellons, actually on the site of where our current business park is now located. I live in Michelstone of Edw, which is literally a mile from the site. So I've always been invested in that area. So if we go on to the next slide, so the clicker is that one, or that makes sense. I don't know if you could see that. This is our current business park. And I think it's important, really, why did we want to get involved with a new train station? Well, this is our business park located right next door to the Cardiff Parkway site. And we have tenants like Rolls-Royce Submarines already there. IQE, you may have heard of, is a big semiconductor company. They have 2 sites on our park. They actually make in Cardiff the technology. When you do that with your mobile phone, when that image switches, they've got the IP and actually make that on this business park in Cardiff. We've got Bupud's new diagnostic centre, which will be open to patients next week. Accelerate Technologies, a company that manufacture mobile broadband for anti-terrorist vehicles and to emergency services across the globe, and they're headquartered here in St Mellons. De Laval manufacture milking equipment and are part of Tetra Pak and a Swedish company. We have a company called Curvolt, again in the semiconductor space, that make and manufacture chips that go into miniaturizing transformers. We have a company called Quantum, slightly out of step with the sort of science park that I've described. Quantum are a firm of actuaries, the largest firm of actuaries in Wales. The definition of an actuary is somebody that found accountancy too exciting. But if you meet them, they are real characters. We also have Rackspace, a company from Dallas in Texas. They manage remote data centers from our site. A company called Aprima. They manufacture and distribute IT, mainly around servers and the large IT kit. And a company called Nuvolt, which is a company based out of Dubai, having some challenges, as you can imagine, at the moment in their head office. But they are in the solar and battery storage market. So it would just really give you a bit of an idea on, what is already there and why we feel that Cardiff Parkway is going to be of massive benefit. Because one of the criticisms that when I speak to those tenants is they absolutely love it there. They love the landscaping. They love the fact we have 24-hour security. But the one thing they say is there's no public transport. There's one bus an hour. And really when you look at, I don't know if there's anyone here from Cardiff Council, but obviously there's a real drive to reduce cars. But for me, it can't all be about the stick. There needs to be carrot as well. And so we are very dependent on cars at the moment, but all that is about to change. So with the London to Swansea mainline running close to the business park, we thought we'd have a look first at the status of the land, either side of the railway line. The land extends to over 200 acres, so this is a large-scale project. We found out it was owned by 7 feuding farming families, of which a lot were known to me. There's actually one in the room, so Rob, wherever you are, that I'm actually telling the truth there. In fact, we've actually got brothers talking to each other that haven't talked for 30 years, because obviously there's some potential money for them in all of this, so they're quite motivated to come together. So we met with them and we set out the vision. We then purchased long-term options on their land with a view of gaining the first step of planning status with the Cardiff Local Development Plan, and that was way back in 2016. You know, infrastructure projects of this size, you know, they just don't happen overnight. This is a long haul. Actually, naively, as I reflect on it, much longer than I ever anticipated. But during that time, coincidentally, the mainline between London and Cardiff was electrified at a cost to the UK government of over 2.8 billion. But actually that wasn't just about cleaner, faster journeys. It also meant that there was potential for more capacity on the line, which meant the obvious thing to do then was to look to build train stations. It was clear to us that if we could deliver a quality main train station, it would create a destination in its own right. It would act as that USP to deliver a major employment district. Because when you reflect on what large inward investors are looking for, the biggest challenge for them is attracting and retaining the right staff. The main decision is all around skills. You know, where can I get my workforce from? Are there the universities? Are there the further education? You know, is the skill set the right skill set for my organisation? And obviously, by creating a train station there, our reach immediately becomes so much wider. You know, there are 9 universities now within a 45-minute journey by train from the site in St Mellons. I'll come on to Cardiff University in particular later on. But again, the connectivity to major cities, to airports, international airports like Heathrow, and obviously being able to access London in an hour and 45 minutes is going to be an absolute game changer. The train station also provides an important lifeline to the population in East Cardiff, who've, you know, quite frankly, the citizens there have been starved of any public transport options. The train journey from the new station in St Mellons to Cardiff Central will be 7 minutes, as opposed to 45 minutes by bus. You know, I can do it in 10 minutes, but I nearly lost my license. So, but any large infrastructure project, it's important we involve partners to help deliver the vision. So Investec came along as a major South African bank, and in fairness, their patience has been amazing to actually, you know, stick with us through this process. And then Welsh Government joined as a joint venture partner later on, which is really important because obviously they have all the links to our other stakeholders like the Department for Transport, UK Government, Network Rail, the train operators themselves. So having Welsh Government as part of the company has proved to be essential. It was important then, you know, to deliver the vision. We appointed the right design team with the necessary experience and flair. Also key for me was that they bought into that vision and were on the same wavelength. So Arup was selected as our lead consultant. Wilkinson Eyre, as I mentioned, have designed the train station and the public realm. These are some other buildings that we actually have built on the business park, which I didn't mention. For instance, we've got the largest office for Welsh Water. Before COVID, there were 850 staff working there. We built a multi-storey car park because, again, no public transport. And I had a real battle with the council over car parking. And that rant ended up being the idea of, well, you know, there's the opportunity to put a train station just down the road. So it was actually linked to that car park discussion. We also built in Newport 100,000 square foot of space for both Target Loan Services, Beechcroft Solicitors and Qualifications Wales. So we have literally built hundreds and hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial space. So, we are very much sort of rooted in that space. So after in here, because this is part of my speech at the Investment Summit, after a long, robust planning process, I hadn't written it quite like that. After 3 years of frustration that included a call-in and 2 public inquiries, I'm pleased to say the First Minister, Eluned Morgan, made the decision to grant planning permission last year. Because our project encapsulates both economic development and transport, we're pleased that the current Welsh Government Ministers, Rebecca Evans and Ken Skates, are fully engaged. And we are developing the remaining work streams to enable us to start on site in October with the station planned to be open and operational by mid-2029. I would have loved to have had it open for the Euros because it could have been a real godsend for moving people around, but unfortunately it hasn't happened. The business district will deliver a minimum of 6,000 jobs and could contribute over 5 billion of GVA over the next decade. So, these are significant numbers. But they're not my words. They're actually was written by an independent report, actually produced by Savills, who are in the room, for the Cardiff Capital Region. I think the author is in here somewhere of that report, but we were obviously very pleased to read it. I think it's important to put it into context when you look at one of our closest neighbours. I would actually call them rivals, Bristol. They've benefited from having 2 mainline train stations now for over 40 years, and they're now one of the most prosperous core cities outside of London. And that frequency and connectivity to London and the airport has massively helped them achieve that prosperity. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind the correlation between the two. So, we were never under any illusion that this infrastructure project, this scale, would take a long time because there are so many stakeholders to satisfy. But now we've got planning approved. It's clear there's a demand for a second mainline train station in the capital of Cardiff. Cardiff is growing exponentially, and it's actually, interestingly, the closest capital city to London. A lot of people don't realise. Probably if I asked, people would probably think it was Paris, but actually the closest capital city is Cardiff. And we are one of the fastest growing core cities in the UK. Independent demographic research and also research done by Cardiff University shows there's a large untapped skilled workforce within a 45-minute catchment area of Cardiff Parkway, which is very important criteria for those potential occupiers. The station will allow access to 9 universities within the region and provide much easier access to important towns and cities, not just to the east, but further west, like Port Talbot, Swansea and Carmarthen. The site is well served by the M4. It's a mile to the north of the site, and the roundabout at St Mellons is a dual carriageway straight into the site. And we've been talking to Welsh Government about the possibility of a dedicated junction on to the M4 in the future as demand starts to increase. The image you see now is actually an image taken from the central platform of the train station. At the moment, we have 4 tracks. They are gun barrel straight, and there's not much distance between the tracks. On the north of the site is the up and down main line. The south of the site is up and down relief lines. How we managed to get that large central platform in is that we are going to be slewing the relief lines over 2 kilometres in order to create the space to be able to put those central platforms in. That 2 kilometres of track will be new, and then they will be coupled up to the existing track over one weekend. So very little disruption to rail services. So as I said, the site is also well served by road, but I think it's also important that Cardiff Parkway really links into the £5 billion worth of investment with the Metro as well. We see this almost like a tube stop. There will be over 10 trains an hour stopping and starting from our train station. And if you were coming down, say, from the Rhondda Valleys, it would just be one stop and then on to Cardiff Parkway. In terms of policy, Cardiff Parkway is a key recommendation of both the Lord Burns report that was commissioned after a decision not to build the M4 Relief Road. After not building the M4 Relief Road, obviously Welsh ministers had to say, well, there is a problem at the Bryngars tunnels. What alternative? If we're not going to build the road, then what should we do? Now, Cardiff Parkway is probably going to take about 8% of that traffic off the M4. Although personally, I would have loved to have seen the M4 built. I think it was a catastrophe for our region, and it wasn't. And after spending £144 million of taxpayers' money and then not deciding to go through with it was, in my view, scandalous. But that's only my personal view. The report was then fully further endorsed by Sir Peter Hendy with the connectivity of the Union report, and he recognised the important role that Cardiff Parkway would be bringing in terms of connecting major cities across the UK. So a regular 7-minute train journey to both the centre of Cardiff and Newport, along with frequent services to Bristol, can only help reduce that congestion on the M4. We will be having plenty of car parking adjacent to the station. And regular trains means it's almost like a turn up and go, almost like a tube. You wouldn't even really need to look at a train timetable if you were going to be going to either Newport or Cardiff. As long as car parking and train ticket pricing is competitive and the service is reliable and accessible, this truly will then become the transport of choice. All those things need to come together to actually make public transport work. Cardiff is famous as an event city with over 28 major sellout sporting concerts and sporting events at the Millennium Stadium. And now, of course, I don't know if you've recently seen how far the indoor arena has progressed. It's really coming on leaps and bounds. And an 18,000-seater, mainly music event in the Bay, we are now looking at joining up with Cardiff Parkway through the ambitious plans for Crossrail. So again, people coming to the city from the east would be able to get on a tram at Cardiff Parkway and get through to the new indoor arena. So again, it's all part of the customer experience. We want people that visit Cardiff to really feel that it's joined up and it's been thought through. So adjacent to the train station, within the public realm, the square in front of the train station. I keep forgetting to even click this thing on. So that was just actually giving a map of where we actually are geographically. That's actually to scale. So you could see the green site there. It can actually be seen from space. So it's a significant size. Adjacent to the train station, it's intended to be amenity rich with bars and food halls, dentists, GP practices, opticians, gym, physios, creches, convenience store, and a hotel. The site has got planning for 1 million square feet of commercial space, but could accommodate considerably more than that within the development parameters. We don't believe actually there's a site in the UK of this scale served by a mainline train station that has planning permission. So we are now in a very unique position. Since planning permission's been granted, we've already received a lot of interest from blue chip companies in both the advanced manufacturing, AI data centers, and the advanced semiconductor markets. Obviously, AI is something that we're all going to have to be very aware of what the impact is going to be of AI and what impacts that's actually going to bring to how buildings, commercial buildings particularly, are used in the future. The one thing for me with AI is actually they don't employ all that many people. So in AI data centers are often vast, but they don't actually employ all that many people. So coming on to the environment, which I know is very important to a lot of people here in the room. I think First of all, it's not our fault that the main Swansea to London railway line actually runs through a triple SI. We had to work it. We had to plonk a train station on the lines. We weren't looking to deviate the main line anywhere else, so we had to work with where it was. So we brought forward designs that really respected the environment, and we worked closely with Natural Resource Wales. They're the custodians of the environment here in Wales, and now are co-signatories to our Section 106 and the conditions on site. So now we are really working with them in partnership going forward. They recognise that the site will be managed and maintained to a better baseline than currently exists. Any of you that has been down to have a look at where this site is, you'll see that it's covered with illegal fly tipping. And don't get me started on that issue, but including oil drums, other nasty stuff like chemicals and asbestos has just been dumped on what is designated a triple SI. The site is special. It's intersected by a managed drainage system that goes back to Roman times. We've designed a scheme where all the reens, as they're called, will remain in place, but we're going to enhance them by providing a 6-metre buffer either side of those reens to allow the fauna and the grasses to grow, to get the insects and the wildlife back. And also we have an undertaking not only to manage but to maintain that going forward. It'll also improve the water quality. Currently it's low-grade agricultural land, and there's only one landowner in the room, so I could say this. The farmers are using pesticides, including phosphates and nitrates, and in some cases go right up to the margins of the reens. So, as I said, there's only one farmer in the room, but what we're saying is that after our development, it is actually going to be an environmentally rich location. We're only building on 35 acres of the 200 acres. The rest of the land is given over to environmental mitigation. So it's extremely balanced. Funding for the station and the wider business district to date is a combination of private finance, Welsh Government and UK Government. We welcome the statement from Rachel Reeves at the last UK budget, and I quote her words: "The UK Government recognises the growth potential of Cardiff Parkway development, so we'll work with Welsh Government and Cardiff Parkway private sector to develop plans for delivery and funding of a station to serve the area as soon as possible with the UK Government support." The Prime Minister Keir Starmer then visited last month at the Transport for Wales depot in Taftswell to double down on the UK Government support for Cardiff Parkway, and his official press release said a new station will finally get built at Cardiff Parkway to help service an estimated 800,000 passengers a year. This will unlock 6,000 new jobs in an industrial district, which will be revamped thanks to additional UK Government investment and agreed approach to funding and delivering the station between UK Government, Welsh Government and the private investors. For me, having UK Government committed is obviously important for us, with the Welsh Government elections looming in May and no certainty on what the shape or the look of that government might be after May. So the fact that we do have UK Government now totally committed to the project was extremely important for us. We also enjoy political cross-party support for the project. A big shout out actually for the Cardiff councillors who have been unanimous in their support. Cross-party, they had one vote in the chamber where the vote was 62-0 in support of Cardiff Parkway, unprecedented when you have all the opposition lined up voting the same way. Again, a shout out to Joe Stevens, our MP, who was also the Secretary of State for Wales, Vaughan Gethin as our MS, for their steadfast support throughout the process. Cardiff Council, Cardiff Capital Region have announced also that Cardiff Parkway Business District has been selected as one of the beneficiaries of the new investment zones. which provides a number of benefits for potential occupiers, along with the infrastructure required on site, like roads and utilities. That investment zone money is £160 million being split over potentially 3 sites: the semiconductor site in Newport, our site, and an investment, an incubator space that they're looking to create down in Atlantic Wharf. You will have all read about Rolls-Royce, who have already established a base on our current business park, and they've shortlisted our site along with 2 other sites up north, and we're currently in the middle of due diligence and trying to win that race. They were very impressed with the proactivity of Cardiff University and all levels of government helping us to hopefully win this game-changing inward investment. We're talking thousands of jobs here and very well paid, exactly what we need in Wales. As I've often said, I want to see Wales actually sell itself on quality rather than just selling itself on price. Well, as you can tell, I'm very excited about this game-changing project and what it can deliver for Cardiff and Wales. But before I close and take questions, a couple of other points I want to make. The commercial market is changing really fast. We're still suffering from the impacts of COVID, and now with AI on the horizon, we need to provide buildings that are fit for purpose. I still believe in the need for offices. We're social animals and need that sort of interaction. Building teams, agreeing strategies, especially young people coming into the workforce. Almost in some situations being forced to work from home. I think it's a horrible scenario, and in some respects, when you look at it, they've got the same freedoms as a serial killer, trapped in a cell with a mobile phone and a computer, where they have to eat, work, live, socialize. It just doesn't seem right. So we're now finding a lot of responsible employers are getting people back because they recognize that they're going to mentor these people going forward and recognize the shining lights and the superstars that possibly would be left behind if everything was done remotely. Again, only my personal view of life. But I do agree that obviously technology does allow for certain tasks to be done remotely. But I do think that, there are people who do work from home, and unfortunately, there are also people who are just at home. And I think there's a direct correlation with that and the fact that our growth in the UK is literally just bumping along the bottom. And I think there is, in my view, a correlation between, we seem to have lost a lot of the work ethic since COVID. Again, my personal view. But, look at yesterday's news with NCP going out of business. Whoever could have thought that, because for me, I thought car parks, well, ka-ching, they're going to, because we all know NCP. But then when I reflected on it, I thought, well, they charge astronomical prices, and still the car parking spaces were designed for 1970s cars, which were about 3 foot wide. So when you look at the NCP car parks that are in Cardiff, you probably would mainly avoid them. But AI is going to have a bigger impact on businesses and life in general, probably more so than even the internet did. So that's something we all need to watch out for. I see in the room as well, there's quite a few commercial agents, and they probably know what's coming next. I was honoured to be given this year the title of Wales Property Personality of the Year. So I think I'm qualified to talk about this next issue that I see in Wales. We have a problem right across Wales. The commercial rents are far, far behind Bristol, and Bristol's not even a capital city. We no longer, as property developers, can build anything new. A lot of what I had shown you, I didn't bother with these slides. I'm going to show that's the site. We've built over 200,000 square foot on spec. We actually were brave enough to actually build the buildings, 200,000 square feet, on the basis that then they were ready for mobile inward investment to really be able to move quickly and take them. And we were very successful with that. But I'm going back 15 years. You could not do that now. You could not do that with where banks sit in terms of loan to value. You wouldn't be able to do that because you would be on the hook for business rates after only 3 months, after construction. But development appraisals now just don't stack up. And the issue in the agents in the room for me is that they act for the landlord 1 week and they act for the tenant the next. So all that's happening, you've always got this battle. And what we're finding is that outstanding, say an outstanding BREEAM outstanding building of real quality in a landscape setting with 24-hour security is being compared with poor quality space with no amenities when they are establishing yields and impacting on value. So as I said at the beginning of my presentation, I showed you a number of buildings, and a lot of those were actually built on spec. So we've seen a massive inflation over the last 3 years. And I said landlords on the hook to pay full rates on empty spaces. I'm not looking for sympathy, but this is what this is our capital city. And if you can't get rents up in the capital city, then what hope for the other cities around Wales? So I'm really finishing off by calling on all those involved in commercial property, from agents, valuers, banks, planners, and local authorities to come together, maybe facilitated by Cardiff University with some academic research behind it, to find a solution. Otherwise, we will continue this race to the bottom. If you look at the landscape around Cardiff, a lot of employment buildings have now been repurposed into student accommodation or into apartments. We need to get those employment spaces back on track going forward. So my hope is that Cardiff Parkway will be that step change and will deserve the right to charge higher rents because of the quality of the buildings that we will be building there, the landscaping and the transport links. We all need to up our game. And as I said earlier on, that we have to sell Wales on quality and not on price. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So much more than a train station. I think we've covered economic impact, but social, environmental impact and the huge benefits. And I think for me, we learned a lot about the value of partnership, perseverance, the timescale that you've talked about, and the kind of range of actors that you've had to get involved and on side. I'm sure we'll cover that very much at questions. So I am going to open the questions to the floor in the room to start with. So who's going to kick us off? Got one at the back, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this working? Yeah. Owain Taylor-Shaw from Transport for Wales Fibre. Really interesting presentation. Thank you very much. It was just on the commercial property side, the one that you ended with now. Just been reading more and more reports recently about how digital connectivity can drive up rental values. Just wondering whether that plays a part here in what you were kind of your sort of agenda with the small a you were talking about just there about rental values and trying to keep them up in Wales.
That's a very good point. It's massively important, and it's interesting that you're from Transport for Wales.
We're a spin-off of Transport for Wales doing digital infrastructure.
Right. Activity. Okay. Well, because Transport for Wales will actually be the train operator for the train station. The Transport for Wales will be operating all the train stations throughout Wales. But interestingly, the railway lines allow an awful lot of joined up connectivity for digital. And we're looking at actually using the railway line to bring a lot more fibre and digital capability for the site. So you're absolutely spot on there.
Okay, maybe have a chat afterwards.
Yeah.
Have I got anyone else in the room? Yeah, in the second row, thanks.
Thank you. It was a very interesting talk. I'm here this morning on behalf of Rail Future Wales, which is a pro-rail campaign group, but my professional background is as a town planner. I used to work for Cardiff Council's planning office, so I've got a number of interests in what you've been doing, and personally I've always been very supportive. I'm wondering if you were able to give us some more information on the potential timetable for getting the development underway, because I'm aware that whilst you had a very long wait for outline permission, which I followed quite closely, you would still need to have the details approved of the different phases of the project, both the train station and the first phase of the commercial buildings, and I'm wondering how that side of things is going.
Well, you and I've met before, and I was pleased, for your support when we met before. I think industry experts actually being supportive is really important for us, because of the 3-year time frame of call-in. You're all aware of where inflation's been over those 3 years. Interest rates have gone up. So now we're in the middle of recasting the numbers. That's why it was really important that Welsh Government and UK Government came in to add more financial support for the train station itself. Because originally it was planned that the whole train station would have been funded through the private sector. But because of that 3-year delay, it just doesn't stack up anymore. But it now does, because the private sector is only delivering a third of the value, or a third of the money. In terms of time frame, what we have to do now, we have to discharge a lot of the planning conditions. The environmental planning conditions need to be discharged first, and we'll be getting on with that. There's some seasonality issues around that with species and the likes, but we're getting on with that. And then the first phase is actually building the road down to the train station and also slewing the tracks to facilitate the building of the train station itself. And we're anticipating those works to start in October of this year. It's time to get on with it. I remember giving an interview to the BBC 20 years ago, and they said, well, when are we going to see this train station open and operational? And I said, well, I'd like to see it before I die of old age. It was actually meant to be a joke, not a prophecy.
I think we've got a follow-up.
Follow-up then on the railway side of things. To what extent is the development of your train station at Cardiff Parkway sort of dependent on the other proposed stations, the so-called burn stations, which involve 6 new local stations between Cardiff and the Severn Tunnel, all linked to dealing with the cancellation of the M4 relief road around Newport? Again,
look, a very important point. I mentioned Lord Burns, and we were one of those 6 stations that were recommended. We are miles ahead of the other stations. We have got planning permission, and we've got the funding in place to do it. What we do have to do, we have to finish off the grip stages. We've still got 2 grip stages to finish off. That isn't cheap, as you know, in the rail world. That is the detailed rail design, because we want a contractor to be able to price a fully designed scheme and not as a design and build where they'll end up just putting so much money in against risk. So that is currently where we're at. But literally, we are now moving full steam ahead. The team at Welsh Government and Transport for Wales that are working on this now couldn't be more different than we had 3 or 4 years ago. It is chalk and cheese. So we meet every Monday for 2 hours, go through everything that's happened in that week. There's a real energy and sense of purpose now.
Okay, great. Can I pick up on that? So you kind of joked about the timescale, but at times it must have felt hugely frustrating and like there was a big risk that you wouldn't actually achieve what you'd set out to do. So I just wondered how you persevered at it, and did you always believe that it would be a successful outcome? What sort of advice would you have for other people undertaking long-term investment projects?
Well, probably don't even start. But after what we've been through, look, there were some bad actors in Welsh Government a few years ago that have now exited stage left and are no longer in positions to mess us about. That's the truth of it. And that's democracy. That there were ministers that had different views and didn't really want to buddy up with the private sector to deliver something of this scale. So, but luckily now that is completely transformed. From the top down. It was Elena Morgan that took the decision herself to give the approval. But for a call-in to take 3 years with 2 public inquiries on a project that is so significant for Wales is a basket case that should never, ever have happened. And I would hope that there are lessons learned, that if there is anything of this scale in the future in Wales, that it gets turbocharged rather than what we had to endure. But that's in the past. My son's probably watching online, going, "Oh my God, why do you?" But that is the truth, and we're better off being honest about the challenges
and learning from them.
Yeah.
So I know we've got online questions. Hopefully, it's not your son asking a challenging question there, but Janine.
Morning, Nigel. We've got a couple of questions online about social value and the impact on local communities. Helen Griffiths has asked, she works for a grassroots community development group in St Mellons. They support over 300 local people each week and represent 50 volunteers and members. She agrees it's a really exciting development for South Wales, but she's wondering what will be the benefit to the local community. What guarantees are in place that local residents will benefit from jobs and investment, rather than most opportunities going to people commuting from outside the area? And also, how will the station be safely and affordably accessible without a car? Because there's no current bus links or safe walking and cycling routes in St Mellons. So basically, it's just wondering about the impact on the local community, both for her and for Ryan Evans. They both asked the same thing.
Again, a very, very important point. We have active travel routes right across the site to get residents to the site safely. We'll have separate cycle lanes. We'll have running and walking tracks to be able to get to the station that will be well lit. And even the surfaces will be sort of impact resistant, like a recycled rubberized material that we're using. And then there will be a load of electric buses that will then be going to the residential areas close by. So not just St Mellons, Pontpreneur, Marshfield, Castleton, up to Pentwyn. So there will be a number of shuttle buses that will be bringing people to the train station. There will also be normal buses, if you like, that will be accommodated. The car parking will have priority for electric cars. All the buildings will have, the large buildings will be using solar and other renewables, everything apart from wind, only because I just don't like turbines everywhere. I think there's a better way of doing it. But very important, if you look at the jobs that we're going to be creating through the construction phase, and then I talked about it being amenity rich, everything from hospitality, so there's going to be lots of opportunities for locals to actually work within Cardiff Parkway, but also what Cardiff Parkway then offers them is accessibility for jobs elsewhere by sustainable transport. As I said, 7-minute journey into Cardiff compared to the expense that they have to endure now to go and find employment or indeed education. One of the issues that talking to local residents has been their kids actually going to, whether it's the Cardiff and Vale College or whether it's the university, It's quite difficult getting anywhere from the east of Cardiff unless you have a car. So that will all change.
Do we have any other online questions? Do you want to ask another?
We do, yes. Nigel Bennett says, it's a great project, Nigel. Has the process affected your view of the planning system in Wales?
Yes. In fairness to Cardiff Council, Cardiff Council's planning department have been very proactive right throughout this. Andrew Gregory, head of planning, and Simon Gilbert, who is our planning lead on this, they've been great. The issue for us was when it was called in, and the planning inspector, who in fairness, the planning inspector was also very, very good. But just the process is just unbelievably long-winded, and I think that was the frustration, and that red tape would put an awful lot of people off. But we're there now. I don't know if that answers the question.
Maybe if we move back into the room, we've probably got time for maybe one or... Yeah, have you got a mic? Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Andrew Baker. I'm the head of fundraising partnerships at the King's Trust, based in Cardiff. And obviously, the King's Trust is an organisation that focuses on ending youth unemployment. We are acutely aware that there are nearly 1 million young people in the UK, with a proportionate amount in Wales, that are not in education, employment or training. Is there scope through Cardiff Parkway to perhaps engage with us and other organisations like ourselves who are looking to bring on that young workforce, to see if there might be opportunity to get them into jobs, not just during the construction phase, but after? And would you be open to having conversations with us about how Cardiff Parkway might support that?
100%, massively important. This is just surprisingly, you think, I can't believe him. This for me has never been about making money. This has actually been about, it just was so obvious to do it. So I share, those concerns, and as a passionate Cardiffian and Welshman, I want to see us, as I mentioned before, as a prosperous nation where our kids have got every opportunity to be whatever they want to be in life. So come and see me after, and we can exchange cards.
Thank you. So I know I've got one online question. Maybe we'll finish with that one. Thank you.
Hello there. We've also got a question from Margaret asking, what discussions have you had with Great Western Railway regarding services stopping at the Parkway?
Okay, before call-in, we had an agreed timetable with all the train operators. Since over those last 3 years, we now have a bit of an issue because there's a place called Old Oak Common. Probably won't mean a lot to most people in the room, but that is a link into HS2, and they are attempting to, in my view, nick a lot of the Welsh slack for train services to Old Oak Common. The position with the GWR is that they will stop if they're told to stop at the train station by the DFT. They will stop if they're going to make money. I'm only hesitating because you're probably aware that the current government is actually looking at a change in the franchise model. And when we're talking now about our train station being open sort of mid-2029, I think we'll be in a different place. I'm not even sure that GWR will actually exist in its current format there,
Sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, so by 2029, Great British Railways should have absorbed all the current privately owned rail operators. So there won't be a GWR as we recognise it today. It may continue in terms of operating some open access services, as they're called, because they potentially can carry on. The GWR behind the operator that wants to provide open access from South Wales to Paddington. But I was saying that how Welsh Government Transport for Wales relates to Great British Railways, which obviously is a Britain-wide organisation, is still being discussed at a very senior level, and no conclusion has yet been reached.
Well, you're absolutely right, because rail in Wales is only partly devolved. So that is why we have to have conversations with both the DFT and with Transport for Wales. But we're establishing right now, what does the new train pattern look like? We actually think there will be more trains stopping at Cardiff Parkway than there would have been 3 years ago, because there's also this service that Transport for Wales want, 4 trains an hour to Bristol, which again will be a real game changer for our site. But all of the services were in the timetable 3 years ago. We're currently recasting those numbers, but our expectation is that we will have London services. We mentioned the Burn stations. We're the only Burn station that has access to the main line. The main line gets confused with intercity trains as well. When we call it a main line, you immediately think London. But there are a number of other services that actually run on the main line, whereas the other Burn stations will only have access to the relief lines. So they will have much fewer services. It was absolutely key for our site of the scale that we're talking about, that we had access to the main line and those services to other core cities around the UK.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to draw it to a close. I know people will have busy days to get on with, but obviously I hope you can join me in thanking Nigel for such an inspirational talk. I'm really pleased to hear that the university was directly involved, and I'm sure we're going to be interested in tracking the future success of the project on the Welsh economy. Thank you for attending and for your questions, and thank particularly also our team here that make these events possible, the IT, the kind of registrations, things that go on behind the scenes. So thank you everyone for today.